Now, this nuclear war that they talking about been prophesied in the Bible for over 2,000 years. So now in these last days, like the book of Daniel say, the books will be open, and the knowledge will increase, because people will roam through the prophecies, and they will start to understand the prophecies. And so the knowledge of the Bible will increase in the end of the days. I think it's Daniel chapter 12, verse 4. It talks about that. Let me get that right quick. It says, but thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. So it was for a specific time for him to seal the book and the words until the time of the end. You see, and now we're at the end, and these words in this book is opening up. It's being released to the people and to the righteous. When you look at verse 10, it say, only the righteous will understand. The wicked won't understand. Or the wise shall understand. So, nuclear war been prophesied. Isaiah 54:16, it talks about God created these weapons. Men didn't create the weapons. God created the men, so he created the weapon. And so, when you go to Revelation, and it talks about the children of Israel being delivered in chapter 11, they're delivered right before a major catastrophe happened. Chapter 11, verse 12 in Revelation say, and they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. 13. And the same hour was a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell. And the earthquake, and in the earthquake were slain men 7,000. And the remnant were frightened and gave glory to the God of heaven. So it was a complete destruction, because 7 is the number of completion. It was a complete destruction of the men, the enemies that was beheading the Israelites, ascending up to the sky. Because before the nukes drop, the Israelites is going to ascend up in the sky or up in the chariots. That's why I say in heaven in a cloud. They're going to go in a cloud in a chariot and see the destruction of America, of Babylon the Great. So the way you are going to escape this is you're going to have to follow the instructions given. Now when you go to Revelation 14 verse 12, it say, here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Yahweh, who they ignorantly call Jesus Christ. The blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, who are the Israelites that the Bible speak of, they is going to have to keep the commandments and the faith of Yahweh. And so keeping the commandments is one of the main way that you can show your faith, because a lot of the churches that has been established, they preach faith only, and they don't preach and teach that you have to also show your faith by keeping the commandments. Now, when you go to James, the book of James, and you start it on chapter 2, starting at verse 17, it says, even so faith, if it have not works, is dead, being alone. So it pretty much mirrors the Revelation 14:12, saying if you got this faith only, it's dead. You got to have some works. You got to be keeping God's commandments, doing God's will, what his will is in whatever situation it is. In what you eat, how you dress, how you treat your neighbor. These things, he gave a will on those situations, and they called them laws, and he gave them to Moses. And Moses didn't make them up. He gave them to Moses. He made them up and gave them to Moses, and told Moses to give them to the people, because he didn't give Yahweh no new laws to give to the people. And when Paul was giving the law to the people too, he was coming to establish the law. He just was emphasizing that you got to have faith along with those commandments, and he was emphasizing that to the Jews, because all of the Jews, they only had the law. They didn't have the faith in that prophet that was prophesied to come. They hadn't acquired that faith yet in that prophet. But the prophet had came, so Paul was telling the Jews, we got to keep the law, but we also got to believe on this prophet that just came. You see, that's why when people read Paul's letter, they get confused. They get confounded, because they hearing somebody talk about law, but it seems like he's downplaying the law and emphasizing faith. But he's only emphasizing the faith because these individuals are already keeping the law. Their whole lifestyle has been keeping the law. But see, here in America, in Babylon the Great, all these churches are saying you don't have to keep the law, because they misunderstanding Paul. They saying you don't have to keep the law. You just got to have faith. You just got to speak with your mouth, confess Christ with your mouth, and you will be saved. And that's a bold-faced lie. All the John was Yahweh's bosom friend. He was always close to Yahweh, and they say he was up under his bosom, meaning you so close to this man. You always sitting by him. You always by him, around him. They was real close friends. And so in all his writings, he tells you, you got to keep these commandments. If you don't keep the commandments, you're a liar. And King Solomon in Ecclesiastes 12:10 lets you know also that you got to keep the commandments, because that's the whole duty of man, to fear God and keep his commandments. Do what he commanding you to do. But to touch on that, Paul, why people get Paul confused, because he was emphasizing faith, because the Jews was already keeping the commandments, so he was emphasizing faith. This is what Peter said in 2 Peter 3:15. He said, and account that long suffering of our Lord is salvation, even as our beloved brother Paul, according to the wisdom given to him, have written to you in all of his epistles, or all of his writings, speaking in them of the things in which are some things hard to be understood, which they that are unlearned and unstable wrestle. They wrestle with these things, as they do also the other scriptures, unto their own destruction. So these Christians and these Christianity churches, they all wrestling with the scriptures because they're unlearned. They listening to Paul, and his writings is hard to understand. He kept the commandments. The Jews tried to kill Paul, but Paul was keeping the commandment. And when they confronted him, he told them, I'm not changing nothing, and I'm not keeping the commandments. I'm doing everything that is in the law of Moses and in the prophets. I'm obeying everything. And I'm just trying to tell y'all got to also have faith in Yahweh, who they ignorantly call Jesus Christ. So you got to keep the commandments to survive this destruction of Babylon the Great America by nuclear fire. You got to keep those commandments, the law of Moses. You can't keep all the law that's given. Christ he came to do away with the sacrifice. He came to be an ultimate sacrifice, so you don't have to sacrifice animals. But it's a lot of, it was 613 laws. So in those 613 laws, it's a lot of those laws that you can keep, and it's easy for you to keep. That's why Yahweh said in Matthew 5:19, he said, the least of the commandments. You have to keep even the least of the commandments. And if somebody telling you not to keep the least of the commandments, they're not even going to be nothing in the kingdom. They're going to be least in the kingdom. So just want to bring out, you got to keep the commandments to make it through the nuclear fire and have faith in Yahweh. They both go together. But I'm going to leave it there. All praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Rekakadash. Double honor to the elders pushing the truth. Peace to the elect worldwide. Death to America, death to these red dragons. Shalom.